So, Donald Trump wants to bring back insane asylums. Whoa, that is a headline, right? But is this just a crazy soundbite, or is it pointing to a much bigger shift in how we think about mental health and homelessness? Let's get into it.
Okay, but before we dive in, if you like getting the real story on complicated stuff and fast, do me a huge favor and smash that subscribe button. It really helps us out. All right, so where did this whole thing even come from? Well, it all started with one super blunt question. And there it is, just like that, no hesitation. When the Daily Caller asked him if he'd reopen, quote, insane asylums, his answer was a straight-up, yeah, I would. And with that one phrase, bam, a huge debate just exploded. Okay, so what's the logic here? What's his reasoning? Well, according to Trump, it really just comes down to one thing, money. He's arguing that states like New York and California shut these places down simply because they were massively expensive to keep running. But here's the thing. Trump didn't just talk in generalities. He actually named specific places. And that means we can do a little fact-checking. First up, he claimed Creedmoor in New York was shut down. The reality? Nope. The Creedmoor Psychiatric Center is very much open and running right now. Okay, next on the list, the legendary Bellevue Hospital. Trump's claim? Same thing. Closed? The actual fact? Bellevue is a cornerstone of New York's hospital system. It is absolutely operational. So yeah, on the specifics, his claims are not exactly holding up. So if the places he mentioned are still open, why are we even talking about this? To really get what's going on, we have to go back in time and look at this massive shift in American policy called deinstitutionalization. Okay, look at this timeline. It's pretty wild. It all starts back in the 50s, when the government starts cutting funding for mental health services. By 65, you've got 500,000 people living in these institutions. But then, between money problems and just awful stories about the conditions inside, things started to change, fast. By 1990, that number had completely plummeted. Just let that number sink in. More than 400,000 people. That's like emptying out the entire city of Miami or Oakland from institutional care in just a couple of decades. I mean, we're talking about a massive societal earthquake here. But here's where it gets really interesting. This idea isn't just coming from nowhere. And believe it or not, it's not just a Trump thing. He's actually tapping into a very recent and very real political trend. In fact, what he's talking about sounds an awful lot like a pretty controversial policy that we just saw play out in New York City.
Yeah, just back in 2022, Mayor Eric Adams rolled out this plan to give authorities more power to involuntarily hospitalize homeless people if they were seen as unable to care for themselves. Does that sound a little familiar?
So how did that go over in New York? Well, you can probably guess. The pushback from experts was instant, and it was intense. Yeah, the criticism was absolutely brutal. Experts were basically saying the policy was just scapegoating vulnerable people instead of, actually funding real mental health solutions. And then a city council report came out and called the whole thing largely ineffective and said it unfairly targeted homeless people of color. Oof.
And that really brings us right to the heart of this whole debate. Are policies like this a necessary, tough-on-crime move to make our cities safer, or are they just an ineffective strategy that ends up hurting the most vulnerable people in our society?
So what do you think? Is this a smart, tough-on-crime policy, or is it a flawed approach that targets the vulnerable? This is a huge conversation that is definitely not going away. I want to know what you think, so drop a comment down below. And hey, if this helped you get your head around the issue, make sure you hit that subscribe button for more. Thanks for watching.